In this assignment, we are supposed to use Praat to make a simple periodic sound and display it as a waveform. I have the Praat program set up. Getting that set up might actually be a little bit of a challenge for you. There are a fair number of instructions on the Praat website. You can always reach out for help if you're having trouble getting Praat going. Once you have Praat going and you run the program, it has two pieces, the objects window and the picture window. Most of the things you do are in the objects window, but for any of the nice graph displays that we're going to make, we will get them out of the picture window after we make them. So in Praat, we have a variety of ways we can have it create sounds from scratch. One that gives us quite a bit of control is creating a sound from a formula, at least for the kind of simple sounds we're doing. When we do that, we get a sound with two parts to it. The first part of it is going to get us our periodic sound using the sine mathematical function from trigonometry. The second part of it would add noise, but we don't want to make things that complicated at the moment, so I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that. In the interests of keeping track of what I've got in Praat, I'm also going to rename this so that it's uniquely identified. It's good practice, I guess, though most of the time you probably don't need to bother. Once I do that, I get a new sound object in my Praat window with that name on it. Gives me a simple periodic sound. With a frequency of 377 hertz. For whatever reason, that's the default. We'll change that in other assignments. I can listen to that sound when I have it selected with the play button. Can go and look at the waveform of that sound, which looks like a complicated mess, but that's because I'm looking at the full 1 second of it that was created by my instruction. Underneath the waveform, I've got a display called the spectrogram. We will learn about that near the end of the first unit. Underneath that, I have these various buttons that actually allow me to play the sound. So the one at the very bottom will play the entire sound file, whatever it is. Above that, we have the visible part. So if I were to select some of this, half-ish of it, for example, in the lower left, I have sort of zooming and unzooming buttons. So SEL for select. All would take me out again to showing the full sound. In and out, step you in closer or a little bit farther. And I don't know if I've ever used that one, but I assume it's go back a step from whatever you just did. So if I go look at my selection, now I've got a shorter chunk of this sound, and I can play the whole sound, the part I'm looking at. If I make a further selection inside here, that selection also breaks this window up into 3 pieces, so I can play separate parts of a sound. In the case of this tone, it all kinds of sounds the same. The visible part would just be shorter. Doesn't go on for the full second. When we are starting to look at more complicated stuff like in speech, it might be handy to be able to select just parts of a sound to listen to a single word or a single syllable or maybe even a single phoneme, depending on the phoneme. All right, that's just playing around, though, isn't actually relevant to what I'm requiring you to do for this assignment. But hope you play around anyway. All right, to make a nice looking waveform of at least a part of this sound, when I have my sound selected, I can choose draw. And then inside of the draw command, I want to make sure my numbers line up. And actually, having done some other stuff with this thing recently, it's hanging on to the numbers I had before. I'm going to click on this standards button that will take it back to the default. That's what it will look like the very first time you do something when you've opened up Praat for that particular day. I think if you shut down the program and come back to it, it won't remember things that you had. So it'll come back to like the default look like this. All right. instead of showing that full second of the sound, which was kind of a confusing mess, we're going to zoom in and show just the first 0.05 seconds, 50 milliseconds worth of this sound. And then the other thing I'm going to do is change the vertical range to the full range, -1 to 1, the full range that the computer, microphone, speaker can take and store. When I do that, I have a relatively nice looking waveform show up in my Praat picture window with the first 0.05 seconds of this thing showing. From there, the easiest way to get things into your document are if copying it and then pasting it work. Did happen to work for me. If copying and pasting doesn't work, you have the ability to save this thing as a picture file. This would be a 300 dots per inch PNG formatted picture file, which should be a pretty generic thing that any device can read. And since we're not making anything too fancy or detailed, we can use the lower resolution 300 dots versus the higher resolution option that's available there. If I do go to save that file, then I got to find a place to put it. So if you do that, remember where you put it, because then to get it into your Word document, for example, you would have to insert a picture from your device, for example, in this version of Word that's on my computer in my office, and then select that picture from wherever you saved it to insert it. And of course, if there's any other way you can make all of this work, take a screenshot of it in the Praat picture window and paste that screenshot in here. Whatever you can do to trick the computer to give you what you want is good for me. Last but not least, save this thing off as a PDF, which again, Word has as kind of a handy shortcut ability to do that. Probably, not sure if I have something special set up in Word to do that. I'm pretty sure that's always there, that you can print it as a PDF. Again, remember where you saved it so that you can later upload it to the As You Learn assignment to turn it in. All right, so I got my nice PDF here. Load that up in As You Learn like you do any of your other online assignments, and we are done. But before I go, I should add in a little bit of troubleshooting to what we have here. Let's see. So in my Praat picture window, I got my nice wave. It drew that wave inside of this pink box. If I were to draw a different pink box in a different place, click and drag to create that, redraw my sound, it'll put that wave inside of that box. So in particular, if you happen to kind of accidentally just click in a spot without meaning to, when I go and draw that drawing, I get that wave, but inside that tiny little pink box, which is a disaster. So to fix that, I need to do a couple of things. One is get rid of everything I have, and second is draw myself a new pink box where I can put my waveform or whatever other thing we're creating. By default, Praat has a 3x5 box here, so that's what I did. And now when I draw again, I get my pretty waveform that I had before.